guys, welcome to this new Advent calendar video. My name is Ilona.
And my name is Alexander.
And we are here at the Mindfulness Project as a couple. We've been together for almost 5 years and we've lived together, we're traveling together now. And we would like to share some things with you about having a mindful love relationship.
And now, even after 5 years we are together, at the Mindfulness Project we get inspired on our relationship. And one thing to know is that love is a verb and you should always work on it, because after 5 years you can be really used to each other and may think that you know everything about the other and even know what the other is thinking, but that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah. So there we come to our first topic to talk about, which is communication. Obviously, communication is very important. And here at the Mindfulness Project, we really got inspired by the talking circle. So the talking circle is about answering deep questions, but also about deep listening. And we like to do that together and ask each other firstly about our favorite moment of today, to share these happy moments again, but also to answer more deep questions that sometimes just come up to our minds and really get to know each other on a deeper level as well. And then really try to listen, just as here at the project. Try not to react immediately. Don't try to ask questions, but really let the other person talk and really listen to it. Talk about things that may be painful for the other to hear. Introduce it properly. Don't just start talking about it, but don't be afraid to hurt the other person's feelings, and really don't point at the other person like it's your fault and you have done something and that hurts me, but always talk about yourself and what this situation makes you feel like. So for example, in the beginning of our relationship, we still both met our ex-boyfriend and girlfriend, and Alexander didn't really tell me about that in forehand, so only when we were talking about it, oh, how was your evening yesterday? And then he would say oh yeah, I met my ex-girlfriend, and I would feel a little bit like, oh, why didn't you tell me? Why are you hiding this from me? It was a little bit painful, and but when I told him oh, I would like you to tell me about that in forehand and don't hide it, because otherwise I feel a little bit hurt. And that was a really good thing to talk about, and it wasn't painful to me anymore because I knew about it and I was totally fine with it, but just the fact that it was being hidden was the painful thing. So it was really good to talk about with each other.
Now it may look like we are having a lovely relationship, that everything is perfect, but no, even we have arguments sometimes. That is not a problem, because when we do have arguments, we both know that it is not our fault. It's not my fault, it's not her fault. It's just, most of the time our egos just clinching in between each other. And then in the heat of the moment when you are having that argument, also your ego is very active. And what you then should remember is that at that moment you should also not try to solve the argument. Just give it some time, give each other space, but then come first to yourself, thinking about what was actually happening inside me when we were having that argument. And then on a later moment, when it all faded away, you could have a objective, honest conversation where you absolutely never make the other do something. So absolutely never say you should or you do not. It's not about that. It's also not about what I should change. It's just the thing in between you that should change. And that may have the consequence that one of you have to change, but that should be a consensus. And as an example, one moment that we are having arguments is mostly in the evening. I'm tired, a bit grumpy often, and she is more active, so our energy levels are not aligned at that moment. And yeah, then she might want to do yoga at that point, and I want to sleep. And we were living in a small apartment back then with only one room, and yeah, there was just one clinch happening there. Yeah, if you would go then outside and just have a walk, then like your ego lowers his voice a bit, and then at that moment, if you are mindful, you can grasp it and you can say, okay, actually nothing is wrong. And yeah, 1.5 hour later I came back and we had a conversation, and in the end what we did as a solution was, I think that you did 5 minutes yoga and then we went to sleep. Something like that.
And another lesson we learned here at the Mindfulness Project from one of Christian's teachings is that every day you wake up as a new person. Like, you grow, you learn new things, you develop new skills, you say goodbye to old habits, and you don't change overnight, but day by day you are becoming another person. So yeah, we've been together for 5 years now, and we are not the same persons as when we met. And that's a good thing to realize. When you wake up in the morning, you should be curious every day, like, who's the person with whom I'm waking up with today? Like, different every day, like emotions, thoughts that came up. Alexander may be sad in the morning or very happy, and I should just see how he is that day and embrace this person, and don't feel attached to a certain image I have of him, like, oh, I really like him when he's happy and when he's making funny jokes and when he makes me breakfast. No, but when he's not in that mood on that day, I should not feel like angry or sad or anything, because it's just the person I'm with on that day. And if he's not feeling to make breakfast for me, I'll just make my own breakfast.
Yeah,
that also relates to different energy levels. We often experience that we are not on the same energy level. Like the example before, in the evening I would like to do some yoga and he would like to sleep. But also some days we just wake up and I might be very tired and he might want to go for a walk and for another activity together. And those are moments when you have to realize that if you really want to be together in this moment, you, like, one of the persons has to make a sacrifice. You cannot do both of the things at the same time when the energy levels are different. So one example was when we were on a weekend trip with Alexander's family, and I really wanted to go home on Sunday evening because we had to work on Monday again. And Alexander really enjoyed being with his family, and he loved to be there with them and stay a bit longer, like another evening, another breakfast together. And we had a talk, like, I really want to go home and he really wanted to stay, so I decided, like, okay, it's all right, I can stay another evening. And for me that was a sacrifice at that moment. The day after I was very tired and not really focused at work, but yeah, that was okay, and he had a nice moment with his family. So those are the moments that, yeah, you need to have a good talk and think, like, okay, one of us has to change his ideas about what's going to happen in this moment, and that should be okay. And you should not count those sacrifices and think, like, oh, but last week I did this for you, so now you should do this for me. It's always, yeah, just feel in that moment what might be more important to one or the other person.
Yeah, you should not make a sacrifice while expecting the other to sacrifice then later. And also, so your own sacrifices, they have a lot of weight for you, while the sacrifice of the other may seem small. And then you always are like, yeah, but you should sacrifice now again because I did that big, very huge sacrifice a time ago. And yeah, you should make 10 sacrifices to compare to that.
Yeah, and
But that's not the case.
no, yeah, also because something may feel like a sacrifice to me, like leaving a party because I'm really liking it, but then that is not a sacrifice to you because you're not that kind of a party person. So yeah, you never should compare in this case.
And here at the Mindfulness Project, we're a lot of people with a lot of skills, and you can learn a lot of the others. And the same way, you can learn a lot of the other in your relationship. And if there are things of the other that like are irritating you, then that is most often the place where you could grow the most. So instead of only thinking of, oh, I don't like that of the other,
You should change your behavior because I don't like it.
instead of that, try to think what you should change to maybe not be irritated anymore.
Yeah, so behavior that irritates you is most of the time something that you have to change inside yourself. And I have a very clear example of Alexander, what sometimes makes me a bit ashamed, and that's he can act silly. Sometimes he's just a clown, and then we're walking on the streets and he's acting like that, and I feel like, oh, act normal, be a normal human being. But that's just a reminder to me that I can be less serious sometimes and just more playful and don't think too much of what others think about me. So
yeah. Happy to hear that. Yeah.
And another thing, in a relationship, it's good to remind yourself that you are a person on your own. You're not always that couple. Don't always have to be together, and you don't only have to work on your relationship, but also on yourself. So it's really important to have that space and time to do your own thing. And for us, that's a little bit hard sometimes because we just enjoy being together every moment, and still sometimes we have wishes to do something that we cannot do together, and then it's really good to have this moment to talk with each other and to really make space for this wish. That's sometimes hard, but it's really good. For example, this year I really wanted to do a yoga teacher training during our travels. But Alexander was not that into yoga that he wanted to become a teacher as well. And that teacher training took 20 days. So it would be 20 days of not being together. And I had something to do. But you had to come up with something as well.
Yeah, then my side of the story was then like hearing that and thinking, okay, so 20 days I should come up with my own plan to travel. No, maybe not. And even thoughts came up like maybe I should become a victim, and I should maybe say that I want to go home earlier to avoid being alone. I think that's the reason behind it. But then at some point, again, I became mindful about their thoughts. I looked through them, and then could swap it towards a time where I would be like, wow, that's really nice. I am like forced to have 20 days on my own, and I can look for a project maybe, or I could, and then like many ideas came up, and that's so interesting if you think about it.
Yeah, now it's Christmas time, and maybe you have holidays and you have some time to spend together. Really, be there for each other, together with your family, and it's really some time to love each other, I think.
Yeah, make it a present for the other, to be mindful.
Yeah. And maybe the most important thing about relations that we didn't say yet, but don't forget to hug.